Ever feel drained by someone who constantly plays with your emotions? It's time to stop tolerating manipulation and take back control. Watch this to learn how to protect your peace and reclaim your power once and for all. Narcissists don't operate by accident. They carefully create a cycle of manipulation that keeps you emotionally trapped, and this cycle is not always easy to recognize. It starts with charm and admiration. A narcissist knows exactly how to make you feel special, valued, and appreciated in the beginning. They shower you with attention and make you believe they understand you better than anyone else. This phase is designed to win your trust and draw you in emotionally, making you feel that they are someone you can rely on. But this charm is not genuine. It's a carefully calculated strategy to gain control. Once they have your trust, the cycle shifts. Slowly but surely, they begin to manipulate that trust, using subtle tactics to undermine your confidence and make you question your own judgment. They plant seeds of doubt, making you feel that you're always at fault or that your feelings are invalid. This creates emotional confusion, leaving you constantly trying to prove your worth to them. Over time, the narcissist becomes the center of your emotional world. Their approval feels like a reward, while their disapproval feels like punishment. This dynamic creates a dangerous dependency, where you invest more energy into pleasing them while losing sight of your own needs and desires. The manipulation escalates as they alternate between praise and criticism, keeping you emotionally off balance. One moment they may make you feel cherished, and the next they criticize or ignore you, leaving you desperate to get back into their good graces. This unpredictable behavior keeps you emotionally hooked, hoping that if you just do things right, you'll restore the connection you once felt. But that connection was never real. It was a tool used to control and condition you. Over time, this cycle of idealization, devaluation, and control becomes normalized. You begin to rationalize their behavior, believing that if you're more understanding, more patient, or less demanding, things will change. But the truth is, the cycle is designed to keep you emotionally enslaved. It's a game where the rules constantly change and the outcome always favors the narcissist. The longer you stay in this cycle, the harder it becomes to recognize how much of your identity and self-worth has been sacrificed in the process. Recognizing this cycle is not easy because a narcissist thrives on your confusion. They manipulate your emotions so effectively that you begin to question your perception of reality. But awareness is the key to breaking free. Once you recognize the pattern, you regain the power to take control of your emotions and your life. Understanding that their charm was a mask and their affection was a means to control allows you to step back and see the situation for what it truly is. A toxic cycle that thrives on your emotional investment. The moment you identify this pattern, you take the first step toward breaking free and reclaiming your peace. Boundaries are not walls built to keep people out, but guidelines that define how others are allowed to treat you. They are the invisible lines that protect your emotional and mental space, ensuring that your values, time, and energy are respected. Without clear boundaries, a narcissist thrives, finding unlimited opportunities to manipulate and control. They push limits, test your tolerance, and gradually erode your sense of self-worth by making you believe that saying no is selfish or unkind. But in reality, boundaries are not about being harsh. They are about preserving your dignity and protecting your emotional well-being. When dealing with a narcissist, the absence of boundaries gives them free rein to impose their will on your life. They see kindness as weakness and interpret your tolerance as permission to continue their manipulative behavior. Without clear limits, they feel entitled to dictate how you should think, feel, and act. They invade your space, disregard your feelings, and make decisions that benefit them while leaving you emotionally drained. The longer this pattern continues, the more difficult it becomes to regain control, as they become accustomed to crossing lines without consequence. Setting boundaries is not about changing the narcissist's behavior. It's about changing how you respond to it. When you establish firm, non-negotiable boundaries, you send a clear message that your emotional health is not up for compromise. It means saying no when something violates your values, refusing to engage in manipulative conversations, and walking away from situations that undermine your peace. Boundaries are a declaration that you value yourself enough to protect your space, even if it means disappointing someone who expects unlimited access to your emotions. Narcissists, however, do not accept boundaries easily. When you start enforcing limits, they may resist, retaliate, or use guilt to manipulate you back into submission. They may accuse you of being selfish, unloving, or unreasonable. This is because boundaries disrupt their control and they thrive in environments where they can dictate the terms. But their resistance is not a sign that you're doing something wrong. It's a confirmation that your boundaries are working. The discomfort they feel is a reflection of the loss of control, and that discomfort is necessary for you to reclaim your power. Consistency is key when it comes to maintaining boundaries. A narcissist will test your resolve, pushing against your limits to see if you will bend. If you give in once, they interpret that as permission to continue their behavior. Holding firm even when it's difficult reinforces that your boundaries are not optional. It's not about being rigid, but about being clear and unwavering in your commitment to protecting yourself. When you set and enforce boundaries, you create space for self-respect and peace. You teach others how to treat you by what you tolerate and what you refuse to accept. Boundaries are not about shutting people out. They are about creating an environment where healthy, respectful relationships can thrive. Protecting your boundaries means protecting your peace, and no one has the right to take that away from you. Seeking validation from a narcissist is an endless pursuit that leaves you emotionally drained and unfulfilled. Narcissists are masters at creating a dynamic where you feel compelled to seek their approval, making you believe that their validation is a reflection of your worth. They intentionally withhold praise and acknowledgement to keep you constantly striving for their acceptance. This creates an unhealthy dependency where you invest time, energy, and emotions into pleasing someone who is incapable of offering genuine validation. The more you seek their approval, the more power you give them to control your emotions and decisions. Narcissists understand that withholding validation keeps you emotionally hooked. They use this tactic to keep you in a state of uncertainty, making you question your own value. When they occasionally give you praise or acknowledgement, it feels like a rare reward, reinforcing the belief that if you just try a little harder, you will finally earn their consistent approval. But that approval is always fleeting, designed to keep you trapped in a cycle where you are constantly chasing something that will never truly satisfy you. This emotional roller coaster leaves you feeling exhausted, anxious, and perpetually unworthy. The truth is, a narcissist's validation is not real. It's a tool used to manipulate and control. Their approval is conditional and serves their own interests. They validate you when it benefits them and withhold it when they want to maintain dominance. When you rely on a narcissist for validation, you give them the power to define your worth. And this creates a dangerous imbalance where your self-esteem is tied to their unpredictable behavior. You begin to lose trust in yourself and your own abilities because you are too focused on meeting their unrealistic and ever-changing expectations. Breaking free from this cycle requires shifting your focus inward. True validation doesn't come from external sources, it comes from within. When you stop seeking approval from someone who thrives on control, you begin to rediscover your own voice and reclaim your confidence. You realize that your value is not determined by how much you can please others, but by how authentically you live according to your values and purpose. Validation rooted in self-respect and self-awareness is far more powerful than any praise that can be offered by someone who seeks to manipulate. When you stop seeking validation from the wrong source, you also begin to attract healthier relationships. People who genuinely care about your well-being will not make you work tirelessly for their approval. They will see and appreciate your worth without conditions or manipulation. By removing the need for external validation, you free yourself from the emotional bondage that a narcissist uses to maintain control. Reclaiming your power means trusting yourself again. It means acknowledging your strengths, embracing your imperfections, and recognizing that your worth is not tied to someone else's opinion. When you stop seeking validation from a narcissist, you take back control of your life, your emotions, and your future. You shift from a place of dependency to a place of strength where you no longer need someone else's approval to feel whole. Emotional distance is one of the most powerful tools you can use when dealing with a narcissist. It doesn't mean cutting off all contact or becoming cold and detached. Instead, it's about creating a mental and emotional barrier that protects your inner peace from their manipulation. A narcissist thrives on controlling your emotions. They feed off your reactions, whether positive or negative. By remaining emotionally detached, you take away their source of power. When you stop reacting with heightened emotions, they lose their ability to manipulate and dictate your feelings. Narcissists are experts at provoking emotional responses. They know exactly which buttons to push to make you angry, sad, or guilty. They create situations designed to elicit a reaction, whether through hurtful words, passive-aggressive comments, or unexpected outbursts. The goal is always the same: to keep you emotionally invested and reactive. When you engage in these emotional battles, you unknowingly give them control. They manipulate the situation to make you question yourself, doubt your decisions, and feel responsible for their behavior. But when you master the art of emotional distance, you break this pattern and regain control over your emotional state. Emotional distance means responding with calmness and composure. Even when the narcissist tries to provoke you, it's about choosing not to react impulsively, no matter how tempting it may be. When you remain calm in the face of their manipulation, they become confused and frustrated. They are used to controlling the narrative by stirring emotions, but when that no longer works, they lose their grip on the situation. Emotional distance is not a sign of weakness. It's a demonstration of strength and self-control. It sends a clear message that your emotions are no longer a playground for their manipulation. Maintaining emotional distance also protects your mental well-being. When you detach from the chaos they create, you give yourself the space to think clearly and make decisions based on logic, not emotion. This clarity allows you to see through their tactics and recognize the manipulation for what it is. You begin to realize that their behavior is not a reflection of your worth, but a manifestation of their own insecurity and need for control. Emotional distance helps you stop taking their actions personally, which is a critical step in breaking free from their influence. Achieving emotional distance requires practice and patience. It's about training yourself to remain composed even in the most challenging situations. You learn to recognize their attempts to provoke you and consciously choose not to engage. This doesn't mean suppressing your emotions or ignoring your feelings. It means acknowledging your emotions internally while refusing to let them be used as weapons against you. Over time, emotional distance becomes a natural response, allowing you to navigate interactions with a narcissist without sacrificing your peace. By maintaining emotional distance, you shift the balance of power. You no longer play by their rules, and you stop feeding the emotional turmoil they depend on. This shift empowers you to regain control of your life and emotions, giving you the strength to make decisions that protect your well-being. Emotional distance allows you to break free from the toxic cycle of manipulation and reclaim your inner strength. Walking away from a narcissist is not a sign of weakness or giving up. It is an act of reclaiming your power and protecting your emotional and mental health. A narcissist thrives in environments where they can manipulate, control, and dominate. They depend on your emotional investment to maintain that control. As long as you stay engaged, whether through arguments, explanations, or attempts to reason with them, you give them the leverage they need to keep you trapped in a toxic cycle. Walking away is not just about physically leaving. It's about emotionally and mentally detaching yourself from their influence and refusing to be a pawn in their game. A narcissist's greatest fear is losing control, and when you decide to walk away, you strip them of that power. They will try to convince you that leaving is a mistake. They may use guilt, fear, or manipulation to make you question your decision. They may even resort to love bombing, offering false promises of change to lure you back into their web. But these tactics are nothing more than attempts to re-establish control. Recognizing these patterns for what they are allows you to stand firm in your decision. Walking away is not about punishing the narcissist. It's about choosing yourself and prioritizing your well-being over their need for dominance. Leaving a narcissist requires immense strength because it goes against everything they have conditioned you to believe. They have spent so much time convincing you that you are incomplete without them, that you are too weak to stand alone, and that no one else will understand or love you the way they do. But these are lies designed to keep you dependent and fearful of leaving. The truth is that walking away is the first step toward reclaiming your identity, your confidence, and your sense of self-worth. It's a declaration that you refuse to settle for manipulation and emotional abuse. Walking away doesn't always mean cutting off all contact immediately, especially if circumstances make that difficult. It means setting firm boundaries that protect your peace and no longer allowing their words or actions to dictate how you feel about yourself. It's about disengaging emotionally so that their attempts to provoke, guilt, or manipulate you no longer have the power to affect your decisions. Whether it's limiting communication, refusing to engage in emotional battles, or physically distancing yourself, each step you take toward walking away is a step toward freedom. The journey after walking away is not always easy. There may be moments of doubt, loneliness, and even grief, but those feelings are temporary and they pale in comparison to the peace and clarity that come from removing yourself from a toxic situation. Each day you choose to stay away is a day you choose yourself. You rediscover your own voice, rebuild your confidence, and learn to trust yourself again. Walking away is not just an ending. It's the beginning of a life where you are no longer defined by someone else's control. It's the path toward true freedom, where you can finally live authentically, without fear, and fully embrace your worth. Self-respect is not just a concept, it's a lifestyle, a daily commitment to honoring yourself, your values, and your boundaries. When dealing with a narcissist, self-respect becomes your greatest weapon and shield. It is the force that reminds you that you deserve to be treated with dignity and that your worth is not up for negotiation. A narcissist thrives on diminishing your self-worth, using manipulation, guilt, and control to make you question yourself. But when you cultivate self-respect, you build an unshakable foundation that no amount of manipulation can tear down. Self-respect is the voice within that says, I will not allow anyone to diminish my value, no matter how much they try. When you respect yourself, you set a standard for how others should treat you. You no longer tolerate disrespect, manipulation, or emotional abuse because you understand that you deserve better. Self-respect teaches you to walk away from situations that undermine your peace and dignity. It gives you the strength to say no without feeling guilty and the courage to enforce boundaries even when others push back. Narcissists test limits and prey on those who doubt their worth. But when you stand rooted in self-respect, they quickly realize that their usual tactics will no longer work. Self-respect also changes how you respond to a narcissist's attempts to control or belittle you. When you have a strong sense of self-worth, you no longer feel the need to justify yourself, explain your decisions, or seek validation from someone who thrives on making you doubt yourself. You begin to trust your instincts, listen to your inner voice, and rely on your own judgment instead of constantly seeking approval. A narcissist loses power when you stop seeking their validation because their influence is built on your need for their approval. When that need disappears, their control crumbles. Cultivating self-respect means embracing the idea that your peace is non-negotiable. It means recognizing that you are not responsible for fixing or saving someone who refuses to change. Narcissists often manipulate through guilt, making you feel obligated to tolerate their behavior out of loyalty or compassion. But self-respect reminds you that sacrificing your well-being to maintain a toxic relationship is not an act of love. It's an act of self-betrayal. True compassion begins with honoring yourself and refusing to participate in a dynamic that erodes your sense of worth. Practicing self-respect requires consistency and courage. It means holding firm to your boundaries even when it's uncomfortable. It's about learning to be okay with disappointing others if it means staying true to yourself. Narcissists may react with anger, manipulation, or even attempts to guilt you back into submission when they realize they can no longer control you. But their discomfort is not your responsibility. Self-respect means acknowledging that their reaction is a reflection of their own insecurities, not a measure of your worth. The beauty of self-respect is that it creates a ripple effect in every area of your life. When you honor yourself, you attract healthier relationships, make better decisions, and develop a stronger sense of confidence. You begin to surround yourself with people who appreciate and respect you, not those who seek to control or diminish you. Self-respect empowers you to create a life where your emotional and mental well-being is protected, and where you are free to grow, thrive, and pursue your purpose. Walking the path of self-respect is not always easy, especially after being entangled in a relationship where your boundaries were repeatedly violated, but every step you take toward honoring yourself is a step toward freedom. Self-respect gives you the strength to let go of toxic relationships, the clarity to see through manipulation, and the power to stand firm in your truth. When you choose self-respect, you choose to reclaim your life, your voice, and your dignity. You no longer live at the mercy of someone else's control. You live with the freedom to be authentically yourself, knowing that your worth is beyond question. If you've found strength in these words, remember, your worth is never up for debate. Walking away from toxic dynamics is the first step toward true freedom. Stay true to yourself. Protect your peace, and never settle for anything less than the respect you deserve.